So, good morning, everybody, and I hope everyone is well after Martin Luther King Day on this beautiful Tuesday, but chilly. And we're going to look at financial derivatives a little bit today. Specifically, we're going to look at forward contracts, futures, options, and swaps. Now, I have a ton of stuff on here because in my MBA classes, I used to teach a class on an MBA class called financial derivatives. So I have a tremendous amount of content. So if anybody wants anything related to derivatives, they can let me know. Sorry, I gotta take a sip of coffee. All right, so we're going to talk about some terms. We're going to talk about a hedge, a long position, short position. These are terms we're going to learn. A forward contract and a futures contract and what the differences are. I may have to break this up in a couple different videos. And option contracts, and specifically calls and puts. And lastly, we'll talk about a swap, specifically like an interest rate swap. And I'll just mention credit derivatives. All right, so a hedger. Let's talk about a hedger as opposed to a speculator. Right? A hedger is trying to eliminate risk and solidify his position. So a farmer would be a hedger. A farmer would buy a futures contract to basically secure the price he wants, okay, for his crop as it's growing out of the ground. Or a producer, let's say Kellogg's, would do the same thing to solidify their price if they're going to buy corn. So you could either take a long position or a short position, and a farmer normally takes a short position. When you own something, you're considered naturally long. So one has got to take a short position to offset that. Okay, so you basically buy a contract on the specific item that you're trying to protect. So you can see here, hedging involves engaging in a financial transaction that offsets a long position by taking an additional short position, or vice versa. Right? You see that, right? So that's how that goes. Now, again, that's opposed to a speculator. A speculator is not trying to reduce or eliminate risk. A speculator is just simply purely trying to make money. So a speculator will buy these contracts just to make money. That's about it. No protection. All right. So what is an interest rate forward contract? An interest rate forward contract is an agreement by two specific parties to engage in a financial transaction at a future or forward point in time. And a specification of the actual debt instrument is going to be delivered at a future date. And basically, everything is done at the end. And you basically, the question is how much is going to be delivered. That's already determined, right? So you basically specify the actual debt instrument, and the only thing, and then the date is set up at the end. The only thing that's going to be you're going to determine during delivery is the actual price, because we don't know the price yet, right? So the price, So most of these are specified. Sometimes the price is a little of a problem. The only problem is now if you buy a forward contract because it's so specific, you are not going to be able. This is called a custom over-the-counter contracts. You're not going to be able to find you may not be able to find someone to trade with if the other counterparty decides he doesn't want to be involved anymore. So this could become a real problem. Okay. So what you may do is you may have a problem getting rid of it, and that's what's called obviously default risk. These are very customized and very specific to your product. So specifically, let's say you basically let's say you have a contract to make snowmobiles, right? So let's say you make snowmobiles, and you want to, hedge on weather, how much snow we're going to get, right? You could. There's actually brokers who will do what's called weather derivatives, and write you a custom contract. And if you don't get enough snow, they'll pay you off on that contract. All right. So, as I said, the forward contract is customized, right? And the futures contract is not. That's everything's standardized on that contract, right? And that's usually futures contract is usually traded on the market, and all the specifications are standard. So there won't be you'll have no trouble selling it. And as this futures contract moves along, this differs. If you compare this to the spot price, there's always the futures price. The price of the contract converges to the price of the underlying asset in the spot market. So you'll get this convergence that will take place. All right, so here's an example. First, I got to take a sip of coffee. Forgive me again. So March 2013, basically 2030 long-term bonds are going to be delivered in the CBT. Futures contract expiring 1 year, March 2014. Interest is basically going to be stay at 6% for the next year. So the sixes of 2013 and the futures contract selling at par. So they have to offset this long position in the bond, right? So they got these bonds, and basically you want to offset that. And basically, since you're going to hold them, right, you got to take a opposite position. You'll long them, so you got to take a short position and sell a futures contract. All right. So basically, if interest rates increase over the next year, let's say they increase to 8%. So 8% of so value of the March interest contract at 8% is going to be $4,039,640, right? Because interest rates have gone up, so the price of the bonds have gone down. And here they are at par, right? And they're still at 6% at par. So you got a loss here of $960,000 and change, and you've got to hedge that loss, okay? So that's a loss you've got to hedge. So that short position in the futures contract has to have a value of at least that loss. So basically, you see you've got a successful hedge, right? So your gain is 960,360 to offset that loss, right? So you end up basically get a futures contract here, a short position of this value, just to offset that loss. So that's what's going on. You've basically got a contract to offset, your risk in the on the futures contract in bonds. All right, so there's different organizations, and I have a lot of information on this if you're interested. Basically, on organized exchanges where there's non-customized contract, which standard contracts are traded, you have the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, and you ensure prices are not manipulated, right? Everything's done with a clearinghouse, right? And it's supposed to be on the up and up, but a lot of times you hear about some wacky stuff that really goes on. So the trading has become globalized, and like the foreign exchange market, it goes on all day, 24 hours a day, 24/7. And here's some contracts that are futures contracts that are traded in the United States. So you notice you got a lot of treasuries here, right? treasuries, and of course stock indexes are a big thing, right? Standard and Poor's. The Dow, there is a Dow index. It's called DJX. I don't see it here, but there is a Dow index called DJX. Hold on here, I'm having a little problems. All right, so here's currencies, right? On financial futures. Here's the yen, right? The euro. So there's hundreds of contracts that are traded. And you can look at all this information if you, again, click on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange link here. They really give you good links here. All right, so as far as markets go, as I said, exchanges, everything, this is the magic word here, right? This is the magic word. So they're standardized. Everything is standardized. Let me see if I can save that. And you can trade this contract, again, because it's so standardized and it's so liquid. You can trade it, right? So just so you know that. So basically, the buyer and seller don't commingle, and they make the contract with a clearinghouse, and the clearinghouse stands between them and guarantees both sides, so there's no worry about default, right? So the clearinghouse eliminates, and trading on an organized exchange eliminates default. And the value of the contracts on both sides, every day, the price is set at the end of the day, and it's called mark to market. So basically, years and years ago, a lot of times delivery would be taken. And basically, really what they do is they offset, take an offsetting contract. So, years ago, if you didn't have to worry about a truckload of pork, pigs or hogs delivered to the front of your house. You're not taking delivery on those. All right, I'll stop here and make a part 2. I'm only allowed to upload 15 minutes,